And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We truly appreciate it. We could finally start taking an exhale a little bit after all the game announcements over the past couple weeks. I think IGN estimated to be closing in on the 500 range about games that were either introduced or showcased off for the past couple weeks at various showcases and conferences, and basically a whole bunch of stuff that was shown off from PlayStation, from Xbox, PC gaming, Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, the Indie Showcase, the Dev Showcase, PC Gaming, like I said before, Capcom had theirs, Ubisoft had theirs. Seemingly everyone in the past couple of weeks was showing off what they've got coming up for you as a gamer here in the near future. And here today to talk about what he liked and what he didn't like about what we saw in the past couple weeks. Good man indeed. He returns to us. He is the happy hoarder and the longtime fellow host of the Pop Culture Cosmos, along with Melinda Barkhouse Ross and my good friend TJ Johnson. It is, of course, the man who started with me all the way back in 2016, Mr. Josh Pederson. He finally returns to us, hopefully full time. It is always good to see you and hear from you, my friend.
Good to be here. I've been on the sidelines kind of listening to the show, and I find myself wanting to say things, but then I realize that I would just be talking to myself. It's like that meme they always showed where it says this is what friends are, and it shows the guy like laughing and he's talking to like the four people on the picture, like this is what podcasting is. Anyways, it's good to be back, and good to actually like talk to you and not talk to my stereo.
Although you did call me and told me to mention something on the previous show, and I did just that for
I
Melinda and
appreciate
I.
that, and yes, I did hear that.
Yes, so I want to make sure that is correlated to you. Your opinion is always valued here, my friend, and it is much appreciated over the course of the many years we've been doing this. But it is the summer of gaming. It is so much of what we've seen over the past couple weeks as far as game after game after game after trailer, sometimes gameplay, most of the time just CGI stuff. I will say though that with all the stuff, first off, you know my rant. It's always been there. I'll always end up doing it. If we did all these things, if we made all this effort, if we had all these announcements around June, the end of May, and early June and mid June, why don't we just have an E3?
I think E3 has become like the like Nickelback, like everyone hates Nickelback, but they don't really have a good reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is what's happened to E3. Everyone's like, "Oh, E3 is such a thing of the past. Nobody wants to do E3 again." Oh, how funny. E3 tried to come back. Oh, that sucks because E3 is not a thing anymore. I don't know, it doesn't make any sense to me. But here we are, and here's my theory. It's cheaper to do something outside of E3s because from what I understand, it costs a butt ton of money to have a booth at E3, especially for like
Yes.
Xbox,
A-
Bethesda, PlayStation, Nintendo. So I
And I get
understand,
that.
yeah, from a financial standpoint.
But still, I mean, just seemingly the way that all this was carried about, they tried to organize it. They tried to go ahead and make sure everybody's aware of it, but you could only do so much. And again, for the most part, 99% of this is just going straight to gamers, which is, of course, the base that you want to go ahead and do. With E3, though, E3 always brought it to a larger, wider audience, bring it to the individuals not only within the gaming spectrum, but to those who buy games that are not regularly part of the gaming spectrum as well.
Yes, this is very true.
That's where you have the disconnect, is when you do this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So E3 was, I think E3 kind of lost, and we've talked about this before, but I think E3 kind of lost its pizzazz when they started letting the public in to the show because, you have people who work for publications having to wait hours in line to talk to people to try games out. It's just it got so crowded. And I think that's what turned a lot of people off from wanting to participate in E3 because, originally it was meant to be a press show, not a fan show.
I guess so, but still, it's kind of irritating over the past couple of weeks. It's just all this stuff, and it just seems like it's just all haphazard, just thrown together. So it would have been nice if it was just put together a lot easier.
Well,
DGen says it
it
was too
is.
easy. It's definitely cheaper, but do you garner the same pop when presented? Exactly. Very good point, said Jamie, as far as DGen is concerned. Very good point. It just doesn't have the same je ne sais quoi that it once did.
No, it doesn't. I remember like sitting there every year, before you and I even, started going to E3. I remember sitting there on my computer waiting for these conferences to come on. It was like Christmas. It was like Christmas, and that I would ride that wave until all the games came out, unless it was, a Final Fantasy game, in which case I'd have to wait 13 years to play it.
Absolutely. Speaking of Final Fantasy, oh boy, as our resident Final Fantasy expert, as I already spoke to TJ and Melinda about that, you're going to have to decipher the code because after watching Fast X last night and trying to understand that in the context of the larger Fast and Furious overarching livelihood, I think that you're just going to have to go ahead and something similar in Final Fantasy, try to figure that out as well. But I will say, my friend, it is the Pop Culture Cosmos. It is Josh Pederson and Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching, listening. Again, I cannot name off all the different conferences and showcases that were shown off and showcased over the past 2 weeks. I mean, we're talking about 500 games total. I'm going to go ahead with you, my friend, and hear your thoughts on the ones. Yeah, exactly. Good luck on that one, DGen. Yeah, because it just seemingly every time you would turn around, oh, there comes another showcase. Here comes another developer showcase. Here comes another publisher showcase. So I don't even want to waste my time with it. But anything outstanding appealed to you first and foremost that stuck out in your mind amongst all these 500 games or thereabouts that were announced or shown off this past period of 2 weeks or so?
So I am actually particularly impressed by the sheer amount of games featuring cats as protagonists. Mainly Cat Quest Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm ready to play that one right meow. I'm sorry. That was
he brings the puns back.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, no, I mean, if you notice, there's like this theme here where like they keep showing these games. I know you talked about this with TJ, but like they show these games. There was no like particular release date announced for any of it. So as far as I know, the only games that are releasing this year are Final Fantasy, Street
16.
Fighter, which 16, yeah.
You got to be
Fighter,
clear on which Final Fantasy you're talking about.
Yes, Final Fantasy 16. I know Rebirth is not till nice, DGen.
Nice.
I know, yeah, Rebirth is not till first quarter of next year, but yeah, I just know Final Fantasy 16 and Forza are the only two games that had like solid, yes, these are coming out in 2023. Other than that, everything else was like vague 2024 and beyond. So
Starfield, though, that's another one.
Right, Starfield. But what are we expecting here? Like, yeah, there's a lot of cool trailers, but nothing that I feel confident I'm gonna get to play anytime soon. And Assassin's Creed Mirage, I think, comes out this year.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, what am I gonna get to play this year? That's the big question here. Besides,
well, let's start off
games.
on the PlayStation because it was a couple weeks in the review mirror. Anything stick out from there? Spider-Man 2, I know a lot of people are looking forward to. It looks good. Does not look leaps and bounds over its predecessor, but it doesn't necessarily have to after being considered one of the best superhero games in video game history.
Yeah, actually, that looks it looks great. You kind of, if you played the first one, it's an open world Spider-Man game, and it's full of action, adventure, things like that.
Web
It's
slinging.
web slinging, fighting villains. that's what you're gonna get, and I think we're gonna get just more of the first one. But I don't have I don't have an issue going back to that world because I did enjoy that game.
TJ Johnson says Phantom Blade looked really good, to be honest. And you know how in the episode we just did, how fervent he was on the side of Xbox over PlayStation, but he will admit Phantom Blade did look good. But then again, well, that's coming down the line. It's still quite a bit of ways.
Yeah,
PlayStation does not have as much set up for the short term as I would have hoped. Plus the fact that we saw a lot of CGI, we saw a lot of CGI trailers throughout. That to me is I think is a sin above all sins. We don't see enough gameplay trailers. I get that. I understand that, and I know it's the fault of the industry, but we saw a ton of CGI only trailers in the PlayStation conference, and I thought that was a big mistake.
yeah, that's something PlayStation has been notorious for, but Xbox did that a little bit too for a while.
Well, they
You
still
know,
did it to an extent, too
y-
much to my liking here as well.
right, right.
But
Looking at Fable feature, that was the guy from the IT crowd, right? The guy from the Fable trailer.
mhm.
That's right. All right, sorry. Getting back to PlayStation though, Alan Wake 2. I'm a big fan of the first game. I don't know, like the skipping protagonist that hasn't really worked. Going back and forth, that hasn't really worked in a lot of games before. Like namely, I look at Halo 5, right, and it's not definitely not didn't work so well in his favor. So I am excited about Alan Wake 2, but I don't know how that's going to play out. Final Fantasy 16, like I said, I'm excited about Dragon's Dogma 2. Like that's a franchise. Do you
That
think that's
one that one stuck out to me.
it
Yes.
did stick out, but it's been so long since Dragon's Dogma 1 came out. Do you think that this is something people are really you think it's gonna pull in like non-fans of the original?
No, Dragon's Dogma was a game that was, pretty good, pretty well received. Didn't do super great, as far as dollar-wise, but did okay. And the thing is, it was actually much better, in my opinion, than what the actual reception for it was, as far as amount of dollars. I thought it had a lot more spirit to it than I think, and it deserved a little bit more of a look. But going
Yeah,
back to Dragon's Dogma, I'm really happy about it. It looks even better. I don't know how much larger and more expansive it is. I hope it will be much more so. I know that I was disappointed when I heard Avowed is not going to be as expansive as I was hoping it will be. But those type of mythical quests type fantasy, those type of games appeal to me greatly, and I'm looking forward to
right.
seeing Dragon's Dogma once I get a hands on it.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about Avowed in a minute, but I think with Avowed, I think the point is to try to get people to dive further into the Pillars of Eternity mythology with that one. All right, so I'm like the trailer came around for Foam Stars, all right, and I looked at that. I'm like,
Everybody's talking
does
about Foam Stars.
does Square want to lose money? Like, is this just are they playing a joke on us, or is this real? And it turns out that it is, in fact, very real. So, what are your thoughts? I mean, does this game need to be something?
I don't think it needs to be something, but obviously it's trying to take in the same kind of crowd as Splatoon. And as
I don't even
Splatoon,
think Splatoon people like Splatoon that much.
yeah, not to that extent. We thought it was going to be at the time you and I started talking about it when it first debuted. It thought it was going to be possibly that next big thing, for Nintendo, but ultimately it never reached that level. It's reached the level where, they keep making sequels and sequels, but when you're talking about the backbone of Nintendo, no one's talking about Splatoon.
Yeah, yeah, it's not.
And Foam Stars is just going to be a play off of that, which I think you're going to get residual returns off that.
Well, it's kind of like the what do you call it? The big battle arena games. They're a dime a dozen, right, for a
Yeah.
while, and then now nobody really talks about them anymore. So
Yeah.
I don't understand why this game exists. It just my mind does not comprehend it.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, it's still so many games just blew me away to see how many games and titles were either announced or shown off. I just think it got to the point where, we always talked about this in E3 where so many games get shown off during that period, it becomes too much of an overload, and so many titles get washed through the mud, so to speak, and get forgotten about real easily into this wave and tide of games being announced one after another. We've always said that with E3. I actually think with the loose structure of how it's been over the past couple of weeks, and that they all wanted to do the same thing around the same time, I actually think it got worse, not better.
Yeah, that's I mean that's a fair point. Yeah, it's there's and this was bound to happen, like with all the just the indie landscape. This was bound to happen. There's going to be just an overwhelming amount of content to play at some point, and here we're seeing the residuals of that. One more thing though that was announced at the PlayStation conference that I am kind of excited for: Revenant Hill by the Glory Society. So this is the company that made, well, the company they were before Glory Society. They did A Night in the Woods, and that was actually that still is one of my all-time favorite games. So if you like those like narrative adventure type games, you know, Night in the Woods is great. Revenant Hill's hopefully going to be more of that, but they didn't really show too much of it.
Absolutely. That it looks pretty promising. But overall, your thoughts? I know TJ and I were not high on the PlayStation conference overall. PSVR 2, someone and, TJ and I are going to go into depths on this one of these days on virtual reality because he wants to go ahead and maybe share his thoughts on it a little bit more detail and try to convince me, which he won't, to look more fondly into the VR marketplace. And how can I with Meta and PSVR 2 and Oculus and now the ultra expensive Apple Pro that's coming out at $3,500. So I'm really not really interested in PSVR, but I know they obviously debuted a little bit of that even more to showcase some games off of that. PSVR 2 was showcased quite a bit, but overall, I just thought it was a disappointing conference. I gave it, I think, in the C range from what I remember. Your thoughts on the PlayStation conference?
Yeah, I mean, I gave it like a B minus. The PlayStation VR looks cool, but it's not, they're, like TJ said, Oculus is definitely probably a better option right now for VR. Or you can dish out a disgusting amount of money and buy one of those fancy new Apple headsets.
That's still kind of disappointing to me as far as if you're focusing on it. I think, again, for such a small marketplace as VR is right now,
Yeah.
you should not be investing and looking into it as much as you are. People, they should not be. Just think if they spent and allocated all this money for VR into actual better gaming and better games for each of these manufacturers.
Wait, what?
For instance, let's say like this, as far as for PlayStation, what if they just ditched the PSVR 2 and actually applied all that money they're spending on PSVR 2 to more actual games for the consoles and the resources that they actually sell? Although they're now actually going to sell a handheld console pretty soon in the not too distant future as well.
Yeah, what is that? Is that, I from what I'm understanding of it, it's just a cloud gaming console. It's
Yeah.
not like they're not going to make specific media for it.
It's just going to be something where you can emulate your PS5 off it, similar to what we saw in the previous generation with the Vita that they got rid of so quickly. So,
But why? I mean, why don't they just do like what Microsoft's doing and make it so you can attach a peripheral to it and play on your phone?
yeah, that would be too easy, my friend. That would be way too easy and cost less or be able to attach less and of course be able to get the little bit more as far as those hardware dollars are concerned. TJ says they just unlocked more CPU resources for the Quest through an update. Hopefully that'll be a big update so that they can go ahead and make it a lot better. But again, putting on a helmet, putting on goggles is just not for most people. And it's not going to be for most people as long as this VR market continues the way it is. So I think that's what it comes down to. Do you really want to go ahead and go have those goggles on a predominant amount of time? There's
Yeah.
too many things to go through in order to that.
Yeah, especially if your living room is full of glass.
Yeah. Something like that, exactly, indeed. But it is the pop culture cosmos. It is my good friend, Mr. Josh the Legend, Josh Pederson, along with myself, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Truly appreciate it. I know DJen and TJ are out there, so truly appreciate everything they've done for us and continue to go ahead and have some great conversations with them coming up as well in the near future. I wanted to go ahead and ask you though, with the rest of the conferences that are out there, I mean, whether it's from Ubisoft, whether it's from Microsoft, whether it's from Capcom, whether it's the Summer of Gaming, whether it's the PC Gaming Show, whether it's Day of the Devs, whether it's Indie Showcase, whatever that was shown off, Jeff Keighley Summer Games Fest, anything else that appealed to you out there?
Um, I didn't really watch too much of the Summer Game Fest. I did see the Alan Wake 2 trailer after you pointed it out to me, which
Mhm.
again, like I'm excited for. I did happen to see some of the Ubisoft one. I don't know what all these new Assassin's Creed projects are supposed to be. They look cool, but I don't, I'm not really holding my breath for a great experience with those right now. But then again, they said they're about to be pouring like more resources into these new Assassin's Creed games, so they could be great. But also, I'm tired of Assassin's Creed, so there's that. Uh, all right, then looking at the Xbox showcase, Fable. What is it? What is Fable? What has Fable become? They said the era of heroes is over. So what is the purpose of this game? Like there has to be like an overarching narrative, like a big bad, but I'm just curious what it is and when are we going to get our hands on this thing?
Is it still gonna be done and performed in the mockumentary style that we saw in the trailer, or was that just done for the trailer purposes? So, because I think that gives
Right.
people a false sense of understanding, especially casual gamers who are expecting to go ahead and play through an Office slash Abbott Elementary slash mockumentary style game. And if that's nothing like that, when you pop open the game case and you put the game in or you download it, then that's going to be kind of a disappointment for those who are playing it.
Right. And plus Fable's been dormant for so long. So this is really going to have to be spectacular to get a lot of Fable fans out of hibernation and into this new world that they have created.
And of course, no gameplay. That would be asking way too much, wouldn't it?
Right. Yeah. No gameplay. They showed us some things that looked like gameplay, but it was just a cinematic.
Yeah.
So that is disappointing. Let's jump into Star Wars Outlaws, though. What are your thoughts on this? Like, yeah, if Ubisoft does do things correctly, they do create massive open world experiences. Sometimes they're too big. So, do you think with Star Wars Outlaws that there's going to be a game that is just exhausting? Like, is it someone like me who has gaming OCD, map OCD, where I have to go and like check off everything I see on the screen? You think this is going to be that, or this is going to be more of like a contained experience?
I think it'll be more of a contained experience. I don't think it'll be open world like Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed Mirage, which we're going to get. And I know that I don't know if you're looking forward to it, even though you're also our Assassin's Creed expert, because again, because of your OCD, I'm not sure if you're looking forward to doing it or if you're looking forward to getting it or not. I've died away from the AC series a long after Black Flag. So you're still in it for my friend. So you tell me before we get to Star Wars Outlaws.
I'm not really too excited about Assassin's Creed Mirage. I keep wanting to go back and finish Valhalla, but like I just look at how exhausting that would be, like just how daunting it is to sit there and be like, "Oh man, I want to know what happens so that I can play Mirage," but I'm like 3 DLC packs behind. That's going to take, probably a good year of my life to complete. So I'm not too thrilled about going into another Assassin's Creed game, especially because I don't like Bassam very much. He's not my favorite.
Okay, fair enough. But Assassin's Creed Mirage looked, hey, like Assassin's Creed. What do you
It
know?
looks like another, yeah,
So I'm
lots of
like I said,
hiding and stabbing and things like that.
yeah. So it doesn't look like anything anyone new to gaming would be interested in if they already are aware of the Assassin's Creed series. It just does not look like something I think that if outside of Assassin's Creed fans that people are going to be interested too much in. But when it comes to Star Wars Outlaws, I think that was the surprise of the entire 2 weeks is the fact that it was introduced and it was
Yeah.
shown off with a considerable amount of gameplay, which, again, as much as we trash Ubisoft, and I did the other week with Melinda on where they stood with a lot of their other things out there and how bad that they were doing, I am going to give them props on this one because they delivered when it came to Star Wars Outlaws, and it does look like something I want to play, especially after Jedi Survivor and Jedi Survivor 2 have done really well with audiences out there.
Yeah, this feels like it's gonna scratch the itch that people have who would like a Shadows of the Empire remake. It has that it's very gritty and looks like it's very fast paced. I'm looking at like the artwork for it, those Star Wars Outlaws, and it makes me wonder: are we going to see are we going to see Han Solo in here at all, or like a shout out to Han Solo because it's got the same vibe, the same not vibe, sorry, the same fonts as what do you call it, the Solo movie. So that's kind of what makes me wonder if we're going to see that Orlando maybe.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I definitely am interested by it. I thought it was, for me, one of the more impressive things because, again, not only did they showcase it and introduce it, they were ready to showcase and play a lot of footage of gameplay on it, which I was very impressed. TJ is saying that he thinks that the latest Assassin's Creed coming out, Mirage, will be a return to form. And I'll say, you know what? That's still just Assassin's Creed, and if you're either into it or not into it. So you and TJ look like you're going to have a lot of fun with Mirage there. So we'll see what happens. But I guess for me, also as well, one of the things we need to touch on is something that was showcased as well. I like the fact when I can see extended gameplay looks, so I know more of what to expect when that game comes out. And I did like the fact that finally, after a year delayed release, Starfield from
Mhm.
Bethesda is finally given some extensive love, some extensive gameplay was shown, the customization, how you can build your adventure, what you can do. Didn't touch too much on the story, which I was glad because it showed what you could do so much about outside of that.
Yeah,
As
it
with
gave
any
you a
good, but
little bit,
well,
give
as
you a
with
little taste though.
a little taste of your group constellation and what you can do and what you can achieve. But mainly, it showed all the things that you can do in it. It does seem to me like a Bethesda adventure where in Oblivion and Skyrim and Fallout, you can go ahead and not play along the base campaign, go off and have an adventure of your own.
Yeah, it looks great. What are they saying? There's like thousands of planets out there.
Over a
That
thousand planets will be able to be
yeah.
visited.
I wonder if there's like we're gonna 10 years from now we're gonna see anyone who, um, said that I've been to all of them.
I'll tell you what, you will see that at some point in time. Somebody will say that they have visited and will be marked down as visited on that No Man's Sky type deal. Although this is probably
Yeah.
a game that would have been more, I would have liked to see No Man's Sky develop into something more as this. Although, again, Josh, as I noted to TJ, the character models still look like they're from 2006 with Oblivion.
That's typical Bethesda, but I don't really think anyone cares about the character
No, no, no,
models.
no, 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 no. The internet cares, my friend. I have already seen the memes,
See, the
especially from
internet
the
needs
from the
to get their
PlayStation
priorities right.
fanboys.
I yeah, well, of course, I mean, they're full of venom all the time because 'cause they're mad that they won't get to play any games for the next 15 years.
Well, again, I'm just saying because they showcased exactly what you can get with like games like God of War and things like that, and then they showcased you just some of the character models in Starfield, and that's where I think it gets to let down a little bit to me. But I can easily bypass that if you have a lot for me to do that I
Mhm.
think is interesting outside of just, oh, get this one dude or get this from this one person or get this from this lady or just fetch quests or kill quests. If we
Yeah.
do something outside of that, then I'm really in. You got me hooked.
And I think it will be that. I think it'll be all that and more. Looking at it, does it feels like it's going to be something similar to Mass Effect because they show in the trailers that in the gameplay you're looking at like all these old artifacts, people trying to figure out where they came from. So there's going to be some like ancient threat looming out in the galaxy. You're gonna have to make some decisions, and it might cost the lives of some of your friends. I think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be, um, I think it's gonna be better than Elder Scrolls.
Really? Okay.
Yes, well,
Uh,
the Elder Scrolls, that have come out already. I think it's
okay.
going to be. I think it's gonna scratch that itch, and
Okay.
it's going to scratch the itch of people wanting more Mass Effect.
I'm sure it will. The only thing that though that I didn't see, if you're relating it to Mass Effect, was the interaction with alien races. You didn't see much of that outside of them being just fodder for your lasers. So I want to hear your thoughts. Do you see interaction with alien races in Starfield being a thing, or is it just mainly just going to be based off of interactions with humanoids?
There has to be. I mean, they're truly I know, big claim. I'm sorry, um, but yeah, there has to be aliens out there, whether they existed before mankind went into space or they exist now. There has to be something out there because where else would all those artifacts come from that they're talking about?
I agree. I agree. So that's what I'm just asking. Just again, I think it's going to be their biggest adventure yet, their most grandest adventure. Will it be their best? I'm hoping that that'll be the case because, as you and I know, with all the trouble that's gone on recently with Xbox, they surely need it, my friend. They surely do.
Yeah, they sure do. We talked about Avowed. You still excited for that one?
I'm not excited. I'm still interested, but it certainly was a letdown from that first trailer with a little bit of gameplay added, 3 years ago or whatnot. I am still interested in it, but it looks completely different than what it was showcased before.
Well, remember they did that with Borderlands too. Borderlands supposed to be this serious, Gears of War style game, and then look what came out, and it was good too. So you never know; it might be pleasantly surprising to you.
Well, when it comes to Obsidian, I don't want to doubt them too much because they've created so many great adventures with Fallout New Vegas, and so many other absolutely great adventures that they've made over the course of many years. And I don't want to be too hard on them, but I'm still excited. I'm still interested. I'm not excited anymore for Avowed.
Okay.
I'm just interested in it. So that there's still a level of curiousness. I still want to be able to go ahead and say I'm convinced to go ahead and play.
Yeah. Last two games here that I was pretty stoked for was Sinwa Saga Hellblade 2. They didn't really show any
No
gameplay from
gameplay.
that one, but it's still being worked on, and this game better be like not massive, but like big. It better be like a big experience because I think I played through the first one in about 6 hours. This better at least be double that with all the development time that's gone into it. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I have high expectations for it, which I know can be easily shattered at this
It
point.
looks beautiful, but then again, that's just the CGI, no gameplay.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, if it's based off the first game, it's going to look and sound great, but the gameplay itself is where I think it was lacking in the first one. So I want to see make sure that that's going to be something when it comes out, supposedly in early 2024,
Yeah.
that it will come out with the gameplay. Although it would have been nice to have seen just that.
Would have been nice. And I know Ninja Theory was like one of the first developers that Xbox acquired. So you'd think that, with all the time they've been spending on it, we would be able to see something by now. But who knows what's going on behind the scenes? The last game I'm really excited about with Xbox is Kanitsugami Path of the Goddess. So that one it looked very pretty. A lot of cool colors on there.
Hmm. Do you think that's going to be something that's well? I know with you and your color palettes, the famous color palette comments that you always make, and that's something I think that's going to be interesting because again, with the way that everything's shaped out, I just think though that there are games out there that I really think could and should be on a bigger platform. I know some of the games that we saw, like there was over the course of the playoffs both the NHL and the NBA, Asgard's Wrath 2, which was showcased for MetaQuest. Wouldn't this be outstanding if it was, actually on a bigger platform like Xbox or PlayStation? And if I'm assuming eventually it will at some point in time, but I don't know. When it just comes to VR, getting back to VR, I just don't think the marketplace, the manufacturers have much more interest in making and creating this experience than the number of people that are actually wanting to enjoy it.
Well, I mean, that's what happens with all creative endeavors, though. Like, you're going to be more excited about it than other people. Then the hope is a word of mouth will build up and other people get excited about it too. But yeah, I mean, you look at all these games out here, I would be surprised if all of them get at least 100 hours of gameplay.
Okay. One last thing I want to touch on before we head on out, my friend, and that's the fighting games, because Street Fighter 6 just came out to extendedly great reviews. We've got Mortal Kombat 1, which is coming later this year, I believe in September, if I'm not mistaken. Tekken 8 was also showcased off a little bit. They're going to do some tests. I don't think it'll be coming out this year, 2024, probably at the earliest, but still, the fighting game genre is still going strong with two of the biggest titles ever to the fighting game industry. Your thoughts on what you've seen so far from SF6, which had more announced DLC and other stuff coming along the way, which they announced during all these, different conferences. And then also as well, MK1, which was given an extended gameplay look, its new cameo features, and its overall rebooting of the series in a way.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know my feelings about fighting games. I respect people who can play them. I'm horrible at them. They're fun to watch, but I don't really play too much. Street Fighter 6 was going to be, or it could possibly still be the game that gets me to pick up another fighting game. I have been walking by it at the store for weeks, not weeks, sorry, I know it just came out, but recently been walking by it at the store looking at it and be like, just do I want to pull the trigger here? I might wait till Black Friday. It looks great. Looks great. Like it looks like it could possibly revolutionize the fighting game genre. As for Mortal Kombat, it just looks like more Mortal Kombat to me. I do. I'm curious, so I want to see more of it. Curious to see like what their story mode looks like. Is it strictly just fighting, or are they going to try to branch out a little bit like Street Fighter
Well,
has?
if you've taken a look at some of the extended gameplay for it, it's not just a fighting one-on-one type scenario. They do have outstanding hubs. They have one of the best training hubs ever for video game fighting, and they do have a campaign that you can go through with a full storyline, which I guess is a thought of as a little bit tongue in cheek, which is probably one of the weaker aspects of this game. But still, the fact that you can go through, improve your skills and talents based off of AI that they throw at you and bots that they throw at you during the course of this campaign, which can actually make your reaction times a little bit quicker and help you learn your move set a lot better to prepare you for when you go out there and face off one on one.
Yeah, yeah, that does look cool. I don't know, like, do you think after all these years that Mortal Kombat I know is like one of the best fighting games of the past couple of years, Mortal Kombat 11, but do you think
I'm
after
doing some
all these
Blanca there for devotion, who's
street
loves Blanca out there. Arr, arr, arr.
just do you think that Mortal Kombat has enough fan base to carry it through the next 10 years?
I think so. I think as long as that IP is already what it's gone through 12 iterations already, my friend, and this will be the number 13 one. So I have a feeling that it will probably be not selling as well as SF6, because I think SF6 is going to sell really strong because of the advanced word and the good word of mouth for the rest of the year. But I think even if MK1 sells even decently, I think that's a good sign. You're going to see both these main titles in the fighting game and fighting genre around for years to come.
Yeah, I would love to see like a Mortal Kombat versus Tekken versus Street Fighter, like a game where all
Good
three of
luck.
the three bigs go at it with each other.
Good luck on that one. Get over here. Yeah, I could see him saying to Zangief or Blanca, and just yeah, just going from there. But I'll tell you what, my friend, it's been great chatting with you on exactly what we liked. Anything you really didn't like from these conferences that stood out to you the most?
Nothing I have a particular disdain for. I was curious though. We are missing, Xbox was missing Gears and Halo. Everyone was expecting like a Halo DLC announced.
Yep.
PS5, everyone was expecting some kind of like Uncharted reveal. It never happened. So I don't know. It just feels like a lot of the big franchises, which could be good, have been pushed to the sidelines for these smaller experiences, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Who knows?
Well, I'll tell you what, before we go there, then I didn't really have anything I really want to poo-poo on. There's stuff I just won't play or not play. It's just the way it is. But I will say though that Clockwork Revolution, I don't think that TJ and I touched on it. I think it was the only game that we didn't touch on really too much from NXL at the Xbox showcase. I think that has a nice look of what we saw with BioShock, with when they went to BioShock Infinite,
Yeah.
without the Cloud City type deal. It is more steampunk based, and I really thinking that might be good. We'll see what happens. Although we've seen slip ups in the steampunk world before, so I'm hoping that that actually will come to fruition as a good game. But overall, 500 games or close to it were announced or shown off in some form or fashion. I think Star Wars Outlaws is going to be out of everything. I think that was the game of the entire period for me. Which game was it for you?
It was actually also for me. It was Star Wars Outlaws, and that might just be because I am playing Jedi Survivor right now. And Tears of Joy, thank you for noticing the chaos of my environment. It's what happens when you have kids. Nothing ever gets to go where it's supposed to.
I will say this though, when it comes to Star Wars, for me it was just the fact that they put it out there and they backed it up with a whole bunch of gameplay. Yes, they gave you the CG trailer and all that stuff,
Mhm.
but they backed it up not only in the presentation that they were part of, but they had their
Yeah,
own presentation where they showed you a lot more. So I think
yeah,
that
good.
it's going to, yeah. That's why I really think that was the reason why it stood out to me the most. But my friend, it's always great to talk to you. My longtime fellow host of the Pop Culture Cosmos since 2016. It is Josh Pederson. But before we go, my friend, it says, "Hey Gerald, what's for dinner tonight?" We already had it. Some Raising Canes, and don't even get me started lifted because Raising Canes we bring back home the nice 25 piece platter that's going to set us for the next couple days. And guess what? They forget the Raising Cane sauce in it.
Oh
So
my gosh, that's the only reason people go to Raising Cane's. I
uh,
love it, but I only go there for the sauce. I'll get like 6 extra sauces so I can put them in my refrigerator.
I forgot to put. I complained. I called. I said, "Oh well, do you want to come back now?" I said, "I'm 20 minutes out of my way. I'm not going to do it. You
See,
just
I get that struggle. I live in the country in Texas, and it takes me 20 minutes to get anywhere. So when I go to McDonald's and they forget my sauces, I'm depressed for the rest of the night.
Exactly, absolutely, exactly. My whole family was depressed. We ate or just like nibbling on how about some ketchup? I don't like ketchup. Mustard, blah,
Yeah.
blah,
These like
ranch, blah 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 blah
right, these fast food workers, I don't understand, like, they hold people's mental health in their hands and, opportunities blown, you know?
Absolutely. But before we head on out, my friend, you do have to give us an update of what's going on with your awesome venture and your awesome business, the Happy Hoarder at happyhoarder.com.
Things are going good. We just got some things in stock. We have moved over to Whatnot as a platform, so you can catch some of our streams on there. And we're going to be doing some conventions coming up here. We'll be at Colossal Con in Texas here in the Bell County Comic Con. But yeah, check out our website www.happyhoardercollectibles.com. We got a bunch of stuff in stock. I'm about to add a pre-order section on there. A bunch of cool new Funko Pops coming out if you're into that. And yeah, just keep following us on Facebook.
I was going to ask if you could pre-order the Starfield case, collector's case with the watch that you get in the game that actually you can get a physical watch for it as well.
I have not gotten access to video games yet, but I'm working on it.
Fair enough, my friend. But it is the Happy Hoarder at happyhoardercollectibles.com. I appreciate so much you stopping by, my friend. Always looking forward to some more great conversations with you each and every time out right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.